In the fathomless expanse of the cosmos far beyond the familiar glow of Earth's sun lies Xylar Prime, homeworld to the Xylar. Here in the Grand Assembly Chamber, the very air hummed with anticipation, or rather, the water shimmered with it. For the Xylar were an aquatic species, their civilization thriving in colossal self-illuminated underwater cities. The Grand Assembly Chamber itself was a marvel of bioengineered coral and shimmering plasteel, its vastness designed to inspire awe and underscore the might of the Xylar Imperium. Tiered platforms, adorned with pulsating bioluminescent flora, rose towards the colossal dome, each occupied by Xylar delegates. Their forms were strikingly uniform: sleek serpentine bodies, iridescent scales catching the light, and faces dominated by large, unblinking eyes that conveyed an almost unnerving intelligence. Custom dictated every aspect of Xylar life, from the precise angle at which one inclined their head in greeting to the complex algorithms governing resource allocation. Today, however, a palpable tension disrupted the usual order. The delegates shifted nervously, their delicate fins fluttering as they awaited the arrival of a representative from a newly contacted planet, Earth. At the forefront of the assembly, upon a raised dais crafted from the solidified tiers of a long-extinct sea leviathan, stood General Zorp. A veteran of countless campaigns against rebellious kelp forests and rogue asteroid colonies, Zorp was the embodiment of Xylar military prowess. His scales were a shade darker than those of the average Xylar, a testament to his age and experience, and his gaze held the unwavering intensity of a predator. Zorp adjusted the ceremonial trident that rested across his lap, its polished surface reflecting the chamber's myriad lights. He reviewed, for perhaps the 100th time, the intelligence reports on the human species. The data was perplexing, inconsistent. They were described as both ingenious and reckless, capable of great feats of engineering and prone to inexplicable acts of self-destruction. The Xylar Imperium had encountered numerous species in its long history, but none had presented such a bewildering profile. It was Zorp's duty to assess the threat they posed, to determine whether Earth would become a valuable addition to the Imperium or a troublesome obstacle to be removed. He was, to put it mildly, not optimistic. And now, this human ambassador was late. Such a blatant disregard for protocol was insulting, a clear sign of disrespect. Zorp suppressed a ripple of annoyance. He would maintain decorum, of course. Xylar were nothing if not disciplined. But he would also make it abundantly clear that Earth was in no position to dictate terms. The Imperium's might was absolute, its technology far superior. Surrender was the only logical option. He only hoped this human understood the gravity of the situation. A ripple of murmurs spread through the assembly as the chamber doors hissed open, far later than scheduled. All eyes, or rather, all several thousand unblinking eyes, turned towards the entrance expecting to see, well, something befitting an ambassador. What they got was Kevin. Kevin ambled in, seemingly unfazed by the sheer scale and alienness of the Grand Assembly. He was, to put it mildly, a teenager, maybe 16, 17 years old. He wore a faded t-shirt featuring some sort of Earth band. The image was blurry, but Zorp thought he could make out the words exploding hamsters, cargo shorts that were at least 2 sizes too big, and what humans called flip-flops. The Xylar delegates exchanged bewildered glances. This was their ambassador? This child? Kevin shuffled to a stop a few meters from Zorp's dais, yawning widely. Hey, he said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast chamber. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was totally brutal. He scratched the back of his head, oblivious to the stunned silence that had descended upon the assembly. Zorp felt a twitch in his left gill, a sure sign of rising irritation. You are the representative of Earth? He asked, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics, each syllable carefully enunciated. Kevin blinked. Yep, that's me. Kevin. Ambassador Kevin, though, Supreme Galactic dude is also acceptable. He grinned, seemingly pleased with his own joke. The grin only deepened Zorp's annoyance. Supreme Galactic dude? Zorp repeated, the phrase sounding utterly absurd in the context of Xylar formality. He pressed on, determined to maintain some semblance of control. Are you aware that you are addressing the Grand Assembly of Xylar? That your arrival was anticipated? Oh yeah, totally, Kevin replied, still looking around with an air of casual curiosity. Big room, lots of fish people, cool. He paused, then added, So, where do I sign the surrender papers or whatever? Zorp's bioluminescent markings pulsed with anger. Enough was enough. This juvenile was clearly mocking the sea. Xylar. He raised a clawed hand, silencing the restless assembly. Human, he boomed, his voice resonating through the chamber. You stand before the might of the Xylar Imperium. We have conquered galaxies, shattered stars, and subjugated countless species. He paused for dramatic effect, allowing the weight of his words to settle upon the teenager. Our fleets darken the skies of your primitive world even as we speak. Resistance is futile. Surrender is your only option. Zorp gestured to a holographic display that shimmered into existence, showcasing the Xylar's formidable armada poised above Earth. Behold, Zorp declared, his voice laced with triumph, the culmination of millennia of technological advancement, vessels capable of withstanding the fury of supernovas, weapons that can rend planets asunder. He fixed Kevin with a stern gaze. Do you understand the gravity of your situation, human? The utter hopelessness of your position? Kevin, who had been idly examining his fingernails, finally looked up, a flicker of something that might have been amusement in his eyes. Okay, so, all very impressive, Mr. Zorp, right? He drawled, completely unfazed by the display of military might. But, he continued, leaning forward slightly, hypothetically speaking, if you guys are so totally, utterly, and completely unbeatable, what's with the fleet? Why aren't you already blowing up Earth? Seems kinda inefficient, don't you think, all those ships just hanging out? He tapped his chin thoughtfully. Unless there's something you're not telling me. He paused, a mischievous glint in his eye. So spill, what's the deal? What's this ultimate weapon I keep hearing about? The one you're too scared to use? Kevin asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Come on, don't be shy. Show me your big, scary planet destroyer. General Zorp, his patience wearing thinner than an abyssal kelp leaf, gave a curt nod to two of his guards. Escort the ambassador to the Obliterator, he commanded, his voice tight with barely suppressed rage. Perhaps a demonstration of its capabilities will finally impress upon him the futility of defiance. The guards, towering Xylar warriors clad in shimmering battle armor, flanked Kevin, their multi-jointed limbs moving with unsettling precision. They guided him through a labyrinthine series of corridors, each lined with pulsating energy conduits and humming machinery, deeper into the heart of the Grand Assembly complex. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and brine. Finally, they arrived at a vast chamber, its dimensions dwarfing even the Grand Assembly Hall. In the center stood the Obliterator. It was a colossal structure of polished obsidian and intricately woven metal, easily the size of a small spacecraft. Ornate carvings depicting the Xylar's glorious conquests adorned its surface, and strange glowing crystals pulsed with an eerie light within its core. Kevin circled the machine, his eyes narrowed in mock admiration. Whoa, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Now, that's what I call a paperweight. He ran a hand along the cool, smooth obsidian, feigning awe. Seriously, though, you guys went all out. Did you get the deluxe package with the extra sparkly bits? But beneath the surface of his feigned amusement, Kevin's mind was racing. He was meticulously cataloging every detail of the Obliterator's design. He noted the arrangement of the crystals, the flow of energy through the conduits, the intricate network of gears and levers that controlled its internal mechanisms. To the untrained eye, it was an incomprehensible mess of alien technology. To Kevin, however, it was a puzzle. A bizarre, overly complicated, and frankly ridiculous puzzle, but a puzzle nonetheless. He frowned, tilting his head slightly as he peered into a particularly complex arrangement of tubes and wires. Huh, he muttered to himself. That's interesting. I wonder what that does. The Xylar guards exchanged confused glances, unsure whether to be impressed or further irritated by his bizarre behavior. General Zorp, puffing out his bioluminescent chest, gestured dramatically towards the Obliterator. Behold, human, this is the culmination of centuries of Xylar engineering, the ultimate expression of our military might. With a single activation, it can obliterate entire continents, shatter planets, and extinguish stars. He paused, clearly expecting a reaction of terror or at least a modicum of respect. Kevin, still circling the machine, scratched his chin thoughtfully. Extinguish stars, huh? That seems a bit excessive, don't you think? Like, what if there are, planets with civilizations around those stars? Seems kind of rude to just snuff them out for no reason. Zorp's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The Xylar do not concern themselves with such sentimentalities. Our duty is to ensure the continued prosperity and dominance of our species, and if that requires the regrettable destruction of a few stars, then so be it. He gestured towards a large, ornate lever on the side of the machine. This lever controls the Obliterator's firing sequence. Once activated, there is no stopping its destructive power. Are you quite certain you wish to continue your resistance? He glared down at Kevin, his eyes narrowed. Kevin, completely ignoring the threat, reached out and jiggled the lever. So this thingy here, what happens if I just pull it? Before Zorp could react, Kevin gave the lever a firm yank. A low hum filled the chamber, followed by a series of clicks and whirs. The glowing crystals within the Obliterator pulsed faster, and the air crackled with energy. Zorp smiled, a cruel, predatory expression on his face. Prepare yourself, human. Witness the awesome power of the... But the destructive blast never came. Instead, with a soft poof and a gentle whirring sound, the Obliterator dispensed perfectly cooked popcorn. Mountains of fluffy white kernels overflowed from the machine's dispensing chute, cascading onto the floor in a warm, buttery avalanche. The air filled with the unmistakable aroma of freshly popped corn. General Zorp stared in disbelief, his mandibles agape. The Xylar guards stood frozen, their weapons still raised, but their expressions a mixture of horror and utter confusion. The silence was broken only by the gentle popping of a few stray kernels and Kevin's muffled laughter. Kevin, brushing popcorn off his decidedly non-regulation attire, finally addressed the stunned Xylar. Oh, right, that. See, the Obliterator isn't actually an obliterator. It's a popcorn machine, a really, really fancy one, granted, but still just a popcorn machine. He gestured expansively at the overflowing kernels. It's a Xylar Prime cultural thing, used for entertainment, social gatherings. You know, when you don't feel like conquering the galaxy. General Zorp sputtered, his gills fluttering rapidly. A popcorn machine? But the schematics, the power readings, the centuries of development. He looked ready to either explode or dissolve into a puddle of brine. Kevin wasn't entirely sure which. Yeah, about that, Kevin said, scratching his head. I guess someone got their wires crossed, like, way back when. Turns out all that advanced tech was just for making really, really good popcorn. He bent down and scooped up a handful, popping it into his mouth. Seriously, this is top-tier popping. You guys really nailed the thermodynamics on this thing. The Xylar guards exchanged bewildered glances, their training seemingly unable to process the concept of a planet-destroying weapon being repurposed for snack food. One of them tentatively reached out a claw towards the popcorn avalanche, then quickly retracted it as if burned. Kevin, oblivious to the escalating cultural crisis he was causing, continued his explanation. See, on Xylar Prime they have these kernel carnivals, huge festivals where everyone gets together and, well, eats popcorn. Apparently it's a big deal, like your Super Bowl, but with more fluffy goodness. He grinned, completely unfazed by the sheer incredulity radiating from General Zorp. The absurdity of the situation hung thick in the air, seasoned with the buttery scent of intergalactic embarrassment. But wait, there's more. Kevin announced, clapping his hands together. He turned back to the control panel of the so-called Obliterator, a mischievous glint in his eyes. See, I got a little bored waiting for you guys, so I may have, tweaked a few things. He pressed a series of buttons, sending a fresh wave of clicks and whirs through the massive machine. Suddenly, a series of nozzles extended from the device, each emitting a different aroma. One smelled distinctly of melted caramel, another of sharp cheddar, and a third had a curious, almost spicy scent. I added toppings, Kevin explained, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Figured you guys might appreciate a little variety. Plain popcorn gets old, you know? He gestured towards the nozzles like a proud chef presenting his buffet. We've got classic caramel, spicy chili lime, and, oh, what the heck, a little bit of everything. The nozzles began dispensing their wares, coating the already mountainous pile of popcorn in a colorful, fragrant array of flavors. It was a bizarre spectacle. A weapon of mass destruction transformed into a snack bar, overseen by a human teenager with a penchant for culinary experimentation. The Xylar were in complete disarray. Their rigid formations dissolved into hesitant clusters, their multifaceted eyes darting back and forth between the popcorn buffet and their increasingly apoplectic general. The concept of modifying a weapon of annihilation to dispense flavored toppings was simply beyond their comprehension. General Zorp stared at the cascading caramel, a single strand clinging precariously to one of his antennae. Toppings? Croaked, his voice barely audible above the whirring of the machine. You added toppings to our ultimate weapon? He looked as if he were about to short-circuit. Kevin shrugged, unfazed by the alien's distress. Hey, a little customization never hurt anyone. Besides, he added with a wink, diplomacy is always better with snacks. He grabbed a handful of chili lime popcorn and offered it to a nearby guard. The guard stared at it with open suspicion, as if Kevin had just offered him a grenade. The situation had devolved into utter pandemonium, all thanks to one human, one popcorn machine, and a very questionable sense of humor. The Xylar leadership was in crisis. They had prepared for a battle, a glorious conquest, a swift and decisive victory that would cement their place as the supreme power in the galaxy. Instead, they were faced with popcorn, mountains of it, coated in bizarre and unsettling flavors, emanating from what was supposed to be their most fearsome weapon. The Grand Assembly Hall, once a symbol of Xylar military might, now resembled a bizarre, oversized snack bar. The air, usually thick with the scent of ozone and industrial lubricants, was now saturated with the sweet and savory aroma of popcorn. The meticulously planned invasion of Earth was rapidly devolving into an intergalactic joke. General Zorp, attempting to salvage some semblance of authority, cleared his throat, a sound that resembled gravel gargling in oil. Ambassador, he began, his voice strained. Perhaps we could discuss the terms of surrender in a more appropriate setting. He gestured vaguely at the popcorn-covered floor. Kevin, blissfully unaware of the existential crisis he had triggered, popped a handful of caramel corn into his mouth. Surrender? Nah, I think we're good here. But hey, he added with a grin, I've got an idea. How about a cultural exchange program? Earth sends you guys some of our movies, maybe some music, and you send us more of this popcorn tech. It's a hit. Zorp's multifaceted eyes widened in disbelief. A cultural exchange? Based on a snack food? The sheer absurdity of the suggestion was almost too much for his logical Xylar mind to process. He felt a twitch in one of his antennae, a sure sign of neurological overload. Kevin, sensing the general's discomfort, pressed on. Yeah, we could call it Operation Colonel. Get it? Colonel? Like popcorn? We could even have a popcorn festival. It would be a blast. Literally, he added with a wink, gesturing towards the repurposed Obliterator. The Xylar general seemed to deflate further. General Zorp stood there, a figure of utter defeat. His usually pristine carapace was now adorned with sticky caramel popcorn. He brushed off a few kernels with a trembling appendage, the gesture a pathetic attempt to regain some dignity. The weight of his failure, the humiliation of it all was almost unbearable. He looked around at the assembled Xylar, their faces a mixture of confusion, horror, and a dawning sense of amusement? It couldn't be. Xylar did not feel amusement in the face of military failure. Or did they? Zorp's logical circuits were beginning to fray. Very well, Zorp conceded, his voice barely a whisper. I will reconsider the surrender demand. The words felt like acid in his mouth. He, General Zorp, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, was backing down because of flavored corn. A murmur rippled through the Grand Assembly. The Xylar looked at each other, unsure whether to celebrate, protest, or simply flee the scene. The rigid structure of their society was crumbling before their very eyes, all thanks to a human teenager and a repurposed popcorn machine. With a defeated sigh that sounded suspiciously like a deflating air bladder, General Zorp gave the order. The Grand Assembly is adjourned. The assembled Xylar began to disperse, leaving behind a scene of utter chaos. Popcorn crunched underfoot as they hurried away, their minds reeling from the day's events. The future of Earth, the fate of the Xylar Empire, hung precariously in the balance, and it all hinged on whether or not General Zorp could stomach the thought of a popcorn-themed cultural exchange. The galaxy, it seemed, was about to get a whole lot more buttery. And so, Earth gained a reputation, not as a military superpower nor as a technological marvel, but as, well, as the planet with the weird stuff. Archaeological digs became interplanetary sensations, with alien academics theorizing wildly about the purpose of rubber ducks and selfie sticks. Intergalactic diplomacy took a sharp turn toward the bizarre. Treaties were now negotiated over vats of cheese-flavored popcorn, and planetary alliances were forged on the shared experience of watching bad Earth sitcoms. The Xylar in particular developed a strange fascination with Earth's entertainment, though they still couldn't quite grasp the humor. General Zorp, forever haunted by the Obliterator incident, became a reluctant advocate for cultural understanding. He even started a collection of vintage popcorn buckets, though he never actually ate the popcorn. Some scars, it seemed, ran too deep. As for Kevin, he became Earth's first and possibly most unorthodox ambassador. His methods remained unconventional, often involving practical jokes and the strategic deployment of novelty snacks. But somehow, against all odds, he kept the peace. And who knows? Perhaps somewhere out there, another alien empire is misinterpreting another piece of human technology. Maybe a galactic war will be averted by a cleverly repurposed foot massager, or a planetary crisis resolved with a well-timed interpretive dance. Only time, and perhaps a sequel, will tell.